Hey guys, and welcome back to Darkhorse Paranormal. This is episode 2, The Mysterious Vampire Grave. If you haven't already, please feel free to like, subscribe, share or comment so we can keep bringing you these podcasts and more. Now we bring to you the story by Tom Selman, The Mysterious Vampire Grave. One of the greatest and enduring mysteries in Liverpool's history started to unfold in the autumn of 1973. It was when a gang of workmen set about clearing land to build a 2-storey Roman Catholic primary school between St Oswald Street and Montague Road in the district of Old Swan. The 450,000 St Oswald's primary school would be built on a scrubland near to the church, and Father Patrick James McCartney did warn the workmen that they were likely to come across a few graves during their evacuations. But no one at that point knew about the sinister, macabre secret which would soon be brought to light. An unmarked coffin was unearthed, then another one, but the foreman, Thomas Breen, told his men to carry on, and the coffins were solemnly put aside with the most respect. However, the workmen soon discovered that in an area 40 yards square, there were coffins piled 16 high. Building work was immediately suspended, and the clerk of the works had to look at the unusual find. It was a mass grave, and the total number of coffins discovered, the total to 3,561. The mysterious then deepened because there were no records of any mass burial in the registers of St Oswald's Church. This seemed to indicate that the 3,561 bodies had been stacked in the ground prior to 1840, the year when registration of burials became compulsory. Local and national historians were naturally intrigued by the Old Swan mass grave, and some theorized that the dead were plague and chloria victims. But people who had died of such diseases were usually put in quicklime without coffins. Furthermore, the dates of the plagues and chloria outbreaks in Liverpool and the numbers of the victims, as well as the time window within which they were buried, simply did not tally with the facts regarding a mass burial at Old Swan. Some historians even thought the answer to the baffling mass burial had something to do with the Benedictine fathers who built a church near to the huge grave in the 18th century. Before the historians could examine the mysterious coffins, the Home Office ordered Liverpool City Council to cordon off the mass grave with a 10-foot high security fence. Officials in Whitehall subsequently gave out instructions to cremate the unknown dead and deposit the remains at Anfield Cemetery. The workmen then had to wait 18 months before the building of the school could commence. And in the meantime, the media was warned off when reporters tried to discover what had been found off St Oswald Street. The news leaked out that investigators had deduced that the 3,561 bodies had all been buried at the same time, which meant it certainly hadn't been a plague pit or a pauper's grave. Furthermore, there were inexplicable holes in most of the breastplates of the dead. almost as if they'd been staked. What then is the truth behind the mystery of the Old Swan mass grave? In 1995, several Lancashire historians contacted Whitehall, hoping to discover why the Home Office had given orders to cremate the unknown dead of Old Swan, and a spokesman said he couldn't trace any records of the incident. The files relating to the mysterious mass grave had apparently been destroyed. The puzzle then of how 3,561 bodies came to be buried off St Oswald Street remains unsolved. Victims of plague and cholera were dumped in pits and often filled with quicklime. But the thousands of bodies found at Old Swan were not only placed in coffins, they have been buried in groups according to the age, which suggests all of the interments look placed simultaneously. This means that there are two possibilities, both of them controversial, where over 3,000 people massacred at Old Swan at some point in the 1840s, or perhaps a decade before. If we suppose there had been some uprising and that the authorities had dealt with it, with the revolt by massacring the dissenters, would they then have afterwards buried the victims within coffins? Thousands of poor people were disemboweled and hanged by the authorities in England during the Peasants' Revolt of 1382, but news of the massacre could not be contained and soon spread across the country. Although Old Swan was a peaceful rural suburb when the bodies were buried there, in the masses, news of any rebellion and carnage would surely have been impossible to contain. The way the coffins were neatly laid out at the Old Swan smacks of military involvement. All of the bodies with teeth, meaning they were young when they died, were placed in one particular section, and the coffins were perfectly aligned. The coffins at Old Swan had been buried simultaneously in perfect alignment, and this would have required some manpower and organisation to achieve. To an army of trained military men with spades, the task would have been completed within days. The foreman who oversaw the removal of the bodies in the mass grave vividly recalls that there were no infants among the dead, which does pose a problem to the theory about the bodies of Old Swan being transplanted from an existing churchyard. Surely there would be infants among the dead. The foreman also remarked that the coffin wood was almost impossible to burn, and a lot of it was buried on the site of the school. Perhaps if some of this wood could be recovered today, there may be some traces of DNA material to be had. However, John MacDonald, one of the workers who evacuated the graves, told Tom how, at one point during the gruesome evacuation, a perfectly preserved young woman with reddish hair, dressed in a white garment, slid out of a damaged coffin and landed in the rain-soaked mud with a sickening thud. Within minutes, her pretty face and youthful body started to disintegrate, as if the atmosphere set in. When the rain worsened at one point, a young gravedigger found himself sinking into a coma, with the body sliding out of the decaying coffins. The evacuation pit became waterlogged, and the whole scene was a reminiscent of a scene from the film Poltergeist, with burning coffins opening and rotten corpses floating within the water. The Home Office has supposedly lost the files referring to the old Swan mass graves burial site. So it's looking like it may be some time before we learn the truth about this enduring mystery. Well, that was the story of the mysterious vampire grave by Tom Shellman. However, here at Darkhorse Paranormal, unlike the last episode where we showed you back behind the scenes chat, we would like your input if we should go to Anfield Cemetery and carry out a paranormal experiment, an investigation, and or if you would like us to dig a little deeper into where these bodies actually come from. We do have, like you found out with a little bit of extras, that it could be related to the old asylum that once stood under St. George's Hall. So we're asking you as a viewers, which would you prefer us to do next? Just feel free to comment in the comment section, and we'll be sure to get back